Well, hello there, friends. God bless you and peace be with you. So glad you're back here with us for another episode of Reach More. Today's guest is our last guest for a while from the Archdiocese for the Military Services. Our previous guests who were associated with our work with the AMS have been spouses of people in the military, but today we have someone who is in the military. His name is Kevin Stacy, and he has been serving the military for a long time. He told us he's close to retiring, and he used his Reach More training to launch a men's group. And what's really fun about listening to Kevin's story is really hearing about how his wife was the one who pushed him to start this and kind of urged him on and said finally, like, hey, you've been talking about this enough. It's time to do it. So I am kicking you out of the nest. You got to learn to fly. And it was really entertaining just hearing him share a little bit more about that. But involved with that was his issue with, or not, I don't want to say issue, but the reality of perfectionism and overthinking. And he wanted everything to be just right, and it was never going to get there. And so it's a good lesson for all of us, because it's very easy to think, well, I'm not ready to start yet. I don't know enough, or I'm not equipped enough, or I don't have the right people, or I don't have the perfect place. And the Lord finally pushed him to the point where he's like, you know what, it doesn't matter. We just need to meet. Jesus didn't have the perfect meeting place, and you are not going to either. So I think that's going to be fun for everybody to listen to, and I think we'll all be able to relate to that. So hope you enjoy our interview with Kevin Stacy. Well, friends, God bless you. Peace be with you, and welcome back to the Reach More podcast. We are joined today by another member of the military, Kevin Stacy, who is a Army soldier, and he went through Reach More training through our outreach with the Archdiocese for Military Services, and he is here today to talk about the two apostolates that he has started and working on. So, Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
It's really exciting to hear from somebody who got the first waiver to grow a beard for a Catholic in the Army. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, to my knowledge, I'm the first
That is
Christian
awesome.
Catholic who was approved to grow a religious combination to grow a beard.
Sweet. Well,
That's awesome.
let's jump right in. We can talk more about that beard waiver later if we have time. But tell us about the apostolates that you discerned.
I discerned two apostolates. One was really born out of the other. So when I got here to Fort Drum, I've been looking for a community for a while. An idea of, okay, I need a brotherhood of men, especially after reading Bishop Olmsted's apostolic exhortation into the breach. Just this desire for a brotherhood of men that have the same goal. We're striving for holiness, living the Catholic faith, same values, but it's just not something I was seeing. And my wife was a part of the women's group here, Catholic Women of the Chapel, which does wonderful stuff with the wives of the soldiers, brings them together, forms them. She flourished in there. But looking around, it was like I didn't have anything for me. And so I was praying, and Lord put on my heart. He was like, "All right, Kevin, if you want a group, start something." And so this desire to start a men's group began to form, but I kind of got in my head about it. All these things of trying to get it right place, right time to do this or that. And will I know enough? Will I be able to answer questions that people weren't even asking me yet? I was just getting in my head. And my wife, wonderfully, as she so lovingly always does, she called me out on it. She was like, "Hey, so you mentioned this community, this brotherhood, men's group, all this sort of stuff. Um, God's asking you to do it. I think you should do it." So she called me out on my wishy-washiness, my quitting it before I ever started it. It was like, Just do it." And so really it was like her prompting really pushed me forward to actually do what I had to do and start this group. So the community here is called on Fort Drum as a St. Michael's Catholic community. So, taking our patron, say St. Michael, and do St. Michael's Men. That's what I'll do. So I was like, all right, we're gonna do St. Michael's Men. That's the group I'm gonna pull together and start. And that's the first apostolate. And then out of that was born a second one dealing with a marriage charism, sort of a marriage ministry. My wife and I have been searching for a community of married couples to live together, have a conjugal spirituality. And I came across this book called The Rule. It's the rule. It's called The Rule, St. John Paul II's Rule for a Joy-Filled Marriage of Divine Love. And I read through it, and I'm like, that that put words to what my heart's been desiring for this whole marriage ministry, this marriage apostolate we've been looking for. And ironically, yes, providentially, more like it, is that one of the men in my group, his spouse actually grew up with the authors of this book. Yeah, they found this organization, the Wojtyla Community Institute, and they knew them. So they're like, oh, it kind of worked out that we fell into this and began this whole new community. So we're still in the training phase of learning how to do the actual married couple groups. But those are the two apostolates that God called us to.
So let's
That's awesome.
focus on the first one, the St.
Mhm.
Michael's Men. How did you launch that? Was it like very intentional? Was it a little organic? What did that look like?
Yeah, so that one took almost a year to launch. More so because of, like I said, me getting in my own head,
Mhm.
my own worries, fears, doubts about myself. Can I even do this? I'm an introvert, and the fact that God asked me to start a group of men is just not something I would ever see myself doing. But the desire was there, and like, all right, Lord, you put this desire on my heart for a reason.
Mm.
So I ended up just a movie from my childhood, Men in Black, when Tommy Lee Jones he hands Will Smith's character this card. It had just like an address on there, a little white card. I was like, okay, I can do that. So I wrote on there, I typed it up and printed it on this paper. St. Michael's Men, a date and a time and location. I printed it off, I cut it up, and at the end of mass, I just went around the men in the parish and just handed this card to them, and it was like, just show up, just show up, just show up. That was pretty much it. Um, and
That's awesome.
wonderfully, a lot of men did show up that had a good turnout. But definitely took the prompting. Wife's like, "Let's do this." I'm like, "Okay, I got this," and just hand it out. So there wasn't really a launch or anything to advertise out. There was just hand this card to this man. Hopefully, he's going to show up, and they did.
How
I
did
love that
people
because I
Yeah,
think sometimes we overthink and we complicate, and sometimes simple is just the best way to go. So that's
absolutely.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did people respond when you just walk up and hand them a slip of paper?
Some of them were like looking at me like, "Well, what is this?" And the little information I did give, just like, "Hey, looking for a men's group. Just show up here. We'll figure this out." Some of
Gotcha.
them were surprised. Some were like receptive, like, "Oh yeah, like I've been looking for something like this." So
That's
there's
awesome.
a mixture of some people just like, "What are you talking about?" So it was all over the place, but
Yeah.
it was wonderful.
I also
Now
love the aspect of your wife being able to kind of encourage. I think anytime in
Mhm.
ministry, the more that I've been in ministry, the more that I'm just involved in the faith, that aspect of accountability is just so important. Like surrounding yourself with good people that are going to encourage you. And when you're hesitant and when you are getting in your head, to be like, hey, you're just too much in your head and the Lord is calling you to do something, so do it. So good job on your wife to just call you on and encourage you, because that's a big part of, I think, apostolate is that encouragement and being able to receive when they speak it out and to be able for us to be able to encourage others. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. Through her, God speaks to me through her so much. Especially it's just over the years because we grew closer together and closer to God. It's just you know, I realize whenever she speaks, I should be listening because it's probably God kicking me in the butt somehow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
so when you meet, what does it look like?
So when we meet, we come together, and we were starting with a morning prayer from the Liturgy of the Hours, and it was wonderful as we said, we're trying to go through this, all these men coming together, trying to bumble through the Liturgy of the Hours, saying it together, singing it together. It was so horribly wonderful. There's just all our voices being off, and everybody looking around like, who starts next? Who says what next? So we come together in prayer, and then we do a study. So our initial meeting was we went over the Wild at Heart series of the idea of what does it mean to be a man, unpacking that, and we would just watch the series and have a conversation, and that really opened us up to revealing our lives to each other.
Mhm. And did you just have Catholics in the group, or I think you mentioned that it was a mixture?
Yeah, so in the beginning it was just Catholics, but then some non-Catholics actually kind of caught word on it, and they're like, we're interested in this, and they showed up too. So yeah, we have a mixture of Catholics and non-Catholics in the group.
That's awesome. And how was that?
Very good.
Yeah, I
They
figured.
they 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 brought a another element to it, another um, you know, questions about the faith that makes us have to go back and like, do I actually know my faith?
Hmm.
And makes me re-examine, the catechism. What does the church teach, and why do we believe what we believe?
Hmm.
And to be able to articulate that to someone else, not using, sometimes our churchy words get lost in translation,
Yeah,
and to be able
that's
to
so
like,
true.
hey, how can I explain this to you in words you're going to grasp and like
Hmm.
understand and accept? So it's really been helped form the group in a way that beyond just us talking about our own stuff, to expand beyond that.
And is
I
the
think
group still meeting or not really?
So unfortunately, we had to shut the group down due to various military obligations. Between deployments, training, personnel moving here or there, families moving away. We weren't able to keep recruiting for it and get it built up and keep it going. Especially, I had my recent child, Lucy Grace, was born in June, and
Congrats.
thank you. And with that, it's just on my part too, trying to continue the group and find successors and find more people. I'm doing with little kiddos. I have three to under three, so it takes a lot of time up. But yeah, we did have to shut the group down um, due to a lot of factors.
Mm. But you're still like meeting with them and you're still going to continue to kind of walk with them. Like, have they had
Yeah.
an impact that they're like, you're going to continue to just follow up with them?
Oh yes, yeah. So all the men in the group, we have our we each have our information, our numbers and everything. But we still talk, and we do plan. These are going to be some lifelong friends, not just for me and the men, but our spouses. They're connected as well. Even our children. One of the men, I became the godfather for his daughter.
Oh,
So
that's
it
awesome.
really brought us together in a way that I don't think we would have known each other in this
Mhm.
capacity without this group forming. We all would have gone to mass because we all went to the same mass, but we have gone our separate ways, and our
Mhm.
families would never have been connected in the way we are now.
Mhm. That's one of the things that we talk about in the training. That's like sometimes the groups are there for a season, right? And to
Mhm.
know like just because the group has ended doesn't mean that the fruits of the group has ended, right? So to continue to walk with them and continue to do one-on-ones and continue to just keep up is still a part of apostolate. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, and
neat.
I like how you put the idea of a season. And when I had to shut it down, I felt like a failure. Like
Mm,
I
mm,
failed, and I was kind of hard on myself. But then more comforted, like the word you just said, it was a season, realizing that especially in the military, it's almost like every year there's a massive turnover of people
yeah.
moving in, moving out. So you can't really, there's not a way to form community that's going to stay here. You're
Mhm,
going to move on. It's inevitable. But
mhm,
to see it as this was a season of life that God put us in, all of us together, and that will bear fruit, not just for now, but in the future, for where these men go, wherever I go. But yeah, no, it was really that realizing that seasons happen. I mean, there are 4 seasons in a year. The year is not warm or cold all year. It does change.
mhm.
That's the way I kind of got through that. I'm not a failure. Like this was His will for this reason, and let's see where it goes.
So would you do anything actually, I wanna back up a second and just reiterate or kind of affirm, like, I think the Lord absolutely called you to do that, and I know you probably have come to grips with that now and don't feel like a failure anymore, but even Jesus' small group, ended, and everybody went their separate ways, and that was by design, and that was that gave birth to the church.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
true.
I don't think
True.
it's a bad thing. Uh, would you do anything differently?
Oh, yeah. So I did not attend Reach More training until about halfway through this men's group. So I got to learn a lot of stuff through that particular training. But the one big thing that stuck to me was see the thresholds of conversion, realizing where are these men at? When I began the group, we had to focus on masculine spirituality, like what does it mean to be a man, which we can all relate to that. That's not just a Catholic thing. That's or non-Catholic. That's a human thing. That's a man thing. We all have that question, have to grapple with it. But I didn't begin with a question of who these men are, where they're at in their journey of life, where they're at spiritually. So beginning with, in Genesis, when God asked Adam, "Where are you?" Kind of the question of like, "Hey, Kevin, where am I? But where is this person? Where is that person?" Because we're not all in the same place. We all have the same goal, but we're not all starting at the same place or have the same progress. And really, more so taking the time to learn the men individually, not just in a group setting, but also individually at the beginning so we can formulate, all right, here's how we walk together towards this common goal.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, because um, if we have a goal in mind of helping people live as fully mature missionary disciples, where they feel comfortable and confident sharing the gospel, telling people who Jesus is, and inviting others to follow Jesus, then like that's the target, or the end, one of the end goals we have in mind, in addition to just the fellowship and the brotherhood. But until you know where people are on that journey, I really don't think you can help them progress well. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's another thing that Reach More training taught me was when we had our group sessions, but we had our individual one-on-ones. I was keeping our teaching more so to a group setting, and
Mhm.
I neglected the one-on-one connection to see where they were at. And yeah, definitely, if you don't know where they're at, how can you walk with them and have them walk with you? Because even I need help. I need a brother to help me out.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's awesome. And what do you do? Can you tell us a little bit about the new apostolate that you're starting with the marriages?
Yes. So the according to the rule of Saint JP2, it's a new organization. It's called the Voitiva Community and Institute. They have a marriage charism to where their goal is husband and wife living out conjugal spirituality, having this real, not just becoming one, but even to the point of your interior life, your prayer life is one. And we look around and we see, okay, where's marriage ministry around us? And we in a marriage apostle is community of married couples. And my experience is I haven't really seen that. I haven't experienced that. So as we found this, this book, The Rule, and got in contact with the authors and the institute, we're currently now in training to figure out how do we form these couples, because there are 6 points to the rule, and it's like how do we actually live this community together as married couples,
Mhm.
and that's part of my journey is realizing, beginning with masculinity for the St. Michael's men,
Mhm.
but also my vocation is marriage. And
Mhm.
how do I grow in my vocation, which is my pathway to God?
Mhm.
And this is one thing I look around, and a lot of couples, like, hey, when we bring up the idea of married couple groups and this community of families coming together, people are excited about it. They're like,
Mhm.
there's something in this that they can tell they've been longing for, but they just didn't know what it was. Or they didn't have words to put together for, like, that's what I've been looking for.
Mhm.
So we're really we're looking forward to being able to figure out, especially taking this rule and applying it to military life. Because like I said earlier, that there's a lot of transition. People
Mhm.
move constantly, training, deployments, whatever it might be. So there's not a lot of time to really focus on building a stable community that's going to be there for 20 plus years. It is really having to focus on the seasons of life, and
Mhm.
let me get these people at this season together so that they can go forth and plant seeds where they're at later on.
That's awesome. What stage are you in? Like, do you already know the couples that are going to be in this group?
So right now, I identified we have two other couples who are going through the training with us, and it's really, so this group is more for, it's not for marriages that need help, it's for marriages that are good but want to be great.
That's
so
awesome.
it's identifying couples who are in a good marriage, good practicing Catholics, and kind of identifying them and say, hey, do you want to come together and learn how to, the humana vitae, how to live humana vitae in our world today,
Mhm.
how to live conjugal spirituality, things like that.
That's great because I think it is good. Like the men's group was kind of open for anyone, but then this one seems like it's more accountability and going deeper. And so for that, there is more of a, okay, well, if this is what I long for, then there's more of a discernment process and intentionality for who you're inviting, which again, I
Mhm.
think it's good to know what you desire out of an apostolate before starting it. So I'm excited to see how that flow like just goes. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I am too. I want to have you back in, a few months or a year or whenever, to just to hear the progress on that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Will do.
So, how would you see it work to apply the idea of the thresholds of conversion to this marriage ministry?
So it starts off with trust. You can't build trust if you're not together. So really, hospitality, opening up your home to other families to come in. So that's something we try to do is on Sundays, we try to open up our home in the, for dinner for a family. So like, hey, do you want to invite this family over for dinner? And it really builds the idea, sitting down, having those initial awkward conversations. I'm not a good small talk guy. I get kind of awkward and let's sit down and like, oh hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Good. How's the weather? So it's really it is a step into the unknown for me, outside my comfort zone. But it's bringing these families into our household to begin that whole idea of trust. Like, can I trust you and can you trust me? And they see us around our children in our household because some people can go outside their homes and be a different person, but when you get back home, you can take the mask off at times. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, check out behind my mask. See who Kevin really is at home with his children, things like that, and begin that way. So if you don't begin with trust, all the other thresholds, you're not going to work out too good.
So I'll kind of step back from this individual apostolate and think about both of them here. Do you have any struggles that you'd be willing to share, or perhaps any failures, especially funny ones, that you think would be helpful for other people to know? Like, okay, Kevin went through that. I might go through it too. No big deal.
Yeah, yeah. So, especially when we began the group, just the day, time, and meeting location, getting there, and then the building being locked up,
Mm.
having no way to get to our space. Like, really? Okay, all right, we'll make this work. And then you're moving to the pavilion outside, in the grass area, and just being able to have a meeting there, or getting into the classroom, finally getting there, and then not having my wires, the equipment not working. All these things are just like, wow, the devil's really trying to make sure this doesn't happen. But I think for me, it really came to have a sense of humor.
Mhm.
Things are going to go wrong, and you just roll with it. Just say, "All right, Lord," laugh. Just put a smile on your face. Be joyful. Laugh with it, because as long as you're there together, your apostolate, whether it be the men or married couples groups, um, just being together and working
Mm.
this out, even if all the audio visual fails and food doesn't show up, or there's food gets canceled. If you ordered some food for a gathering and it gets canceled, you didn't realize it. Just just put a smile on and
Mhm.
work through it.
That's not a theoretical thing. That happened to you, didn't it?
Oh yeah, all those things. Yep. Food orders, being canceled, being delivered late, all
Oh,
sort of
that's rough.
stuff. Things not working.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how have you seen or experienced the Holy Spirit moving in your apostolates?
Hmm. I've had a wonderful chance to see several of the men, have their wives giving birth to children. And since like, hey, we have a new member to this community, and it's been wonderful to see their growth and the questions they ask, especially through the questions. They ask such wonderful questions, and you can tell that through the questions they're growing in their spirituality, because it's not just superficial stuff. They're really now entering into life as a Catholic, and they're beginning to pray, or praying deeper than they ever have before. So like, oh, what about this, what about that? And you're like, you're asking the right questions, because I can tell you're really into this, and you're taking on to it. And especially the non-Catholics in our group, seeing their growth understanding of our faith, for the stuff they do ask us about, and us being able to communicate to them what we actually believe and why we believe it, and teaching us how to articulate to them, here's what our faith teaches. It really helps us have to really root ourselves in our own faith, and make sure we know what we're talking about.
That's great. I mean, I'm thinking about the power of dads who are committed to the Lord, committed to their family, especially welcoming new children into their lives. Like how much of an impact that's going to have, just ringing down the years of men who are growing in holiness, being good husbands, being good dads. Uh,
Mhm.
you're a part of something really special.
Yeah, and it feels the whole I'm an unworthy servant.
Mm.
God asked me to do this, and I did the Jonah thing for a while. It feels like I just kept running and running, and like, no, 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 you want me to do what? But yeah, just seeing, talking with the men, and hearing from their wives that the growth that they've had, and just all sort of stuff that they talk about. Like, wow, there has been some fruit to this that I never would have guessed would happen, and that the Lord would have used me, little old Kevin, to do that.
I think this is the second interview in a row where somebody has shared that. Our last interview was with another uh, person who went through Reach More through the Archdiocese for Military Services. She's a military wife, and she was blown away by the impact it had on her family and the way it changed her interaction with her kids and her husband. So it sounds like you see that, especially in the lives of the people that you are working with.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely through them, but even in my own household, this has been something integral to me that it wasn't just, hey, let's get this group and let me bring these men together. I needed this too. This band
Mhm.
of brothers, this, accountability, this push, and it's helped me be a better husband and be a better father to my children.
Mhm.
And I'm exposed to things through these men that I never would have been exposed to. Like, hey, this guy over here, he's such a great dad, and be able to see how he interacts with his wife and children, and like, wow, that is a man I look up to and want to be like. And
Mhm.
then us being able to come together and grow like that, and me be able to come home and actually live that with my family has been pretty awesome.
And that's one of the things that I love about Reach More and just being able to do your own apostolate. I always ask people, like, what are you passionate about? What are your gifts? And what do you feel called to? Like, what do you want to learn about? So if you want to do stuff because you want a men's group, then I think too often we think, oh, I'm going to wait for someone in the church to figure that out and to invite me.
Mhm.
And no, like the Lord can be calling you to be the one to do that and to encourage, like the laity is so important. And that's what Preach More is all about, right? Like the mission of the laity of, okay, this is what I want, this is what I desire. This is, I wish someone did this. Oh, wait, Lord, you're calling me and asking me to do this. And so thank you for your yes. And I know that, maybe it took some time to open up and you needed some encouragement from your wife, but that's awesome, right? The fact that, like, yeah, the Lord wants to continue to work through you, Kevin, like, and he wants to work in and through your marriage. And like, that's awesome. Like, that's exactly what we're here for. So just want to say thanks for your yes.
Mhm. Thank you.
Well, what are your hopes for this next apostle? Like, what do you hope to see come out of this so that we and our listeners know what to pray for?
This next one, really, this a transformation of marriage and family. So the mission of the WCI, the Voitiva Community Institute, it says trusting the rule of St. John Paul II. We are a family of families, striving for holiness, strengthening marriages, and living the truth of Humana Vitae with joy. That's really what I seek, and I see our society is desperately longing for is we need strong, holy families living the truth of the gospel in the world, and to be a witness. So really getting in our community and bringing these couples together to strengthen husband and wives in their marriage, and that pouring over into their family life through their children. And so we can begin to change society, for point society back towards God, say here is love and joy and truth, and through our marriage being a witness to that.
So you're committed to this is the long haul. I mean, because this is not a quick change, right?
Oh yeah, no, this is definitely a lifetime commitment. It's one of those we realize, like, it was my vocation. Like I was called to God through the vocation of marriage, as most Catholics are. We're called through that vocation, and realizing very very few are called to the priesthood religious life and the grand scheme of stuff. But yeah, we need to really engage Catholic married couples and say let's join together and let us live the gospel, live Humana Vitae through our marriages to show the world what joy and love is.
Well, that's a pretty good spot to end right there.
Mm.
So we'll let's stay in touch, Kevin. And as you launch this next apostolate and begin to see some of the fruit of it, and you're able to share, some of the fun lessons, maybe things you would do differently or struggles you encounter, as well as the fruit that you're seeing. It'd be great to reconnect with you and share again about that new apostolate.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for joining us. God bless you, brother. Count on our prayers, and look forward to seeing you on here sometime again soon.
You too. Thank you very much. God bless you.
You too. Well, friends, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Kevin and learned a lot from him, especially about learning to trust the Lord when we feel like we're not ready to go. When He has given us sufficient reason to think that we can jump and press go, then the time is now. And we don't need to overwork things or make it too perfect. And I think his story is a really good example of what happens when you just trust the Lord. So we cannot wait to have Kevin back on in the future when he's been able to do another one of these groups. And thanks so much for listening. So I think the takeaway for us, the action item, is to look at those areas in our life where God has been saying, go, it's time to do something. Don't wait till this is perfect. And trust Him. You know, He's our parachute. He's even more than that. So He will provide, He'll sustain us whenever it is that we follow His will and do what He's asking of us. So good luck, God bless, and count on my prayers for you. And please pray for us as well. Peace.